I'm here to talk about the semifinals last night and also give a little preview to what to expect tomorrow with our Mr. and Mrs. Georgia High School Football Awards. That'll be 3 to 5 o'clock at the Teamsters Local 728 Event Hall in Atlanta. And obviously, a lot of the guys that are going to be there are still alive in the playoffs and will be playing for a state championship. So I'm excited. Just guys that we've been following this season to be able to just kind of talk to them before the big game. One game left. A lot of them, obviously, in our Mr. Georgia football, this would be their last ever high school football game because we got seniors in that award. But let's start with 6A, the highest classification, and what we saw yesterday. So the big matchup obviously was Carrollton and Buford. It was televised on GPB. I know a lot of people uh, were thinking that Buford might have had the edge in this game. I think mostly just the way Buford's been playing as of late. The defense has been lights out. They're producing a lot of turnovers. We've had them on TV a couple times. It looks like they had really gotten back to their just dominant brand of football where once they get in the playoffs, it's really scary. But you have to give a lot of credit to Carrollton. They ended up coming out and getting a 30-17 victory with how explosive Buford's offense has been as of late. I thought that was a pretty good sign for the Carrollton defense. Carrollton scored 16 unanswered points to advance past Buford and clinch its second state title appearance in 3 seasons. Obviously, the first one was Juju Lewis's freshman year when they went up against that Mill Creek team that just caught absolute fire at the end, and I believe set the championship record for most points. So it was a pretty incredible game. So you're going to have Carrollton. They're going to play Grayson. Now, the Grayson Douglas County game was very interesting. We know Bordeaux got hurt. That's Douglas County's quarterback. So he had a broken collarbone in the win over West Forsyth. So they had to really adapt their offense. So, I mean, tons of credit to Douglas County. They came out, they made it work. The one thing I'll say about Douglas County this season, obviously they lost that game 35-28. It was the first time probably in a while where they're in Georgia's highest classification. They got moved up. Last year they lost to Woodward Academy in a heartbreaker. This year they're in 6A, the new highest classification. That's where they'll be next year. Thought overall, if you look at how they did this season, they've got to be pretty proud of just some of the adversity they fought through, all the injuries, and that they really were able to hold their own in Georgia's highest classifications with a really young team. So I think next year it's going to be really hard in the preseason rankings to not consider them as a team that could be number one with all the talent they have returning. As for Grayson, I was a little surprised that it took them a while to get going. They stormed back from a 21-6 halftime deficit. Once they tied it up 21-21, I thought, okay, this is when they're going to really catch fire. But, I mean, Douglas County kept coming back, so it was a 35-28 finish. And it will be Grayson against Carrollton. Should be a really intriguing matchup. Obviously, it's going to be about stopping this Carrollton offense. As of late, Kamari Farmer and that run game has really stepped up. And if you look at Carrollton this season, Kamari Farmer is an unbelievable player. We actually saw him play really his breakout performance as a sophomore. It was when Bryce Hicks got hurt in their season opener, and then we had the Carrollton Rome game, and he went in there and took like 24 carries. And Rome has great defenses, but their biggest strength is obviously stopping the run. Just with their particular defensive alignment, their unbelievable linebackers, guys like Jaden Harmon. They're a really tough team to run the ball against. And Kamari Farmer, as a sophomore, went out there, took over 20 carries, had about 200 yards. So they haven't had to use him as much this season, which is how well-tuned this pass game has been going. But then in certain matchups where they want to establish the run, they're able to do that. And so I think at this point of the season, I mean, he is healthy. He's playing his best ball. and you're really going to have to game plan to stop both. They're definitely going to give Grayson a balanced attack offensively. It will obviously be about trying to get pressure, forcing them into third and longs, and then sticking with those receivers. Guys like Peyton Zachary, they're so good at getting separation, making the difficult catch. All right, so let's go to Class 5A real quick. Langston Hughes, 49-26 win over Coffee. If you've watched the playoffs this year, Coffee obviously set that incredible record against Sequoia where they rushed for almost 700 yards. So it was clear that's what you're going to have to do. Game planning against Coffees. Watch out for that run game. I think they had rushed for about maybe 13 or 14 touchdowns in their last two games. They had a big, like 500-yard performance against Brunswick and then the Sequoia game. So Hughes was able to win 49-26. I think with this Hughes team, the speed offensively is kind of overwhelming. Maurice Gleaton, he had a 70-yard touchdown reception. He's probably the fastest guy in the state in terms of track speed, and it obviously translates on the field also. Javani McGee, 40-yard touchdown pass. Jabari Jones, he had 3 touchdowns, including a 3-yard rushing score. And they also had, Hughes has scored 40 or more points in 11 games this season. So we know Hughes has a great offense. I really like Christian Langford, what he's done at the quarterback position, but they're going to be going up against Milton. So this Milton game, we televised it. It was against Lee County. It was the game of the century, 2 nationally ranked teams, and I just couldn't have been more impressed with the way Luke Nickel played quarterback for Milton. We've had a comparison Rusty throughout there. Rusty Manziel, probably like 2 years ago, he said he's the closest thing to Jake Fromm in high school I've seen. Obviously, Jake Fromm, a 5-star, prolific passer for Houston County. I think he had over 10,000 yards throughout his career. What Luke Nickel does so well is just spread the ball out. It's almost like he knows the abilities of each receiver. It's like when he's throwing to Wiley, he had this one where he just like lofted it up. Wiley had it like a one-handed catch, just put it in the perfect spot. I mean, that was honestly, it was probably the best game I've seen Luke Nickel have. And then CJ Wiley was unbelievable. They had receivers all over the place. Put up, I think, 42 points in the first half against Lee County. It was pretty unbelievable. They ended up winning 56-28. Thought Lee County is a great team. For them to win that matchup that a lot of people thought could have been a state championship matchup with that much dominance, it's going to be an intriguing storyline. Certainly, if they can complete this perfect season, get a win over Hughes, who is battle-tested, a really impressive team that has been a state championship before. If they can win this game, they might get that invite to the national championship. I think they're at number 5 in most polls right now. All right, so let's go to Class 4A. Let's start with the Marist win over Creekside. So I watched a good chunk of this game, and if you know anything about Marist, you know their style of play. You know it's never easy to beat them because they're so good at controlling the ball, taking advantage of possessions like late in the half just to get 3 on the board, and then when they have a chance to eat up clock and then potentially get that go-ahead score, you really are in a tough spot because they're going to go for it on 4th down. They're going to give it to the fullback. This is a team that runs the same basic set of plays and doesn't stray from it every single day at practice. So they are so used to doing it. You got Jack Ewart at quarterback. He is a coach on the field. Coach Chadwick talks about how if he'll tell him something before this game and then they're playing a new opponent and they change it, he'll almost correct the coach and be like, wait, you told us this last time. Are you sure? So, I mean, this is a guy that really understands the system Marist runs. So it was a 27-21 win over Creekside. Creekside has rarely given up that much point. They've had points. They've had a ton of shutouts, including the shutout over Eastside in the last round. So Marist was able to snap their 10-game win streak. Creekside's only losses were 2 out-of-state opponents, so they're perfect in the state. So Marist took a 3-0 lead, 31-yard field goal. Creekside's Caden Benson put Creekside up 7-3, a 45-yard touchdown run early in the second quarter, and then connected with Dylan Vickerson for a 65-yard touchdown pass. Dylan Vickerson is one of the best receivers certainly I've seen this season. He is unbelievable. So that puts them up 14-3. Marist started its next drive at its own 35-yard line and ran out the rest of the half by putting a 41-yard field goal on the board at the buzzer. So that was a 14-6 halftime lead for Creekside. Obviously, that field goal was huge, keeping it within a one-score game. So Marist quarterback Jack Ewart ran in a touchdown early in the third quarter. They went for 2 to try to tie it up, and they did not get it. So Creekside's up 14-12 at this point. Marist forced Creekside to a turnover on downs. They were kind of in no man's land, too long to kick a field goal. You didn't really want to punt at that position too. So they got the turnover on downs, then had another long scoring drive, and then Ewart had a 1-yard touchdown run. And that went all the way into the opening minute of the fourth quarter. So this gave Marist a 20-14 lead. They're up by 6. Creekside gets the ball. They converted a 4th down. A very gutsy call. That was Benson to Vickerson, just a quick hitch route. This is in Marist territory, so that keeps the drive alive. And then I think he threw to Vickerson 2 more times in the red zone, including an 11-yard touchdown pass. Great throw between 2 guys. He high points it, gets the touchdown. So now it's 20-20. They line up for the PAT. It's a high snap. Luckily, he gets it down on time, goes through the uprights. So that puts Creekside up 21-20. They're up by 1 point with 6:32 left in the game. Marist gets the ball. They ate up nearly 5 minutes of clock and then got their game-winning touchdown with 1:36 left. It was a 15-yard carry by Braden Lewis. Braden Lewis actually missed, I think, the first 5 games of this season for Marist. He's come in. He's had a huge impact running the ball. Had another great game. Obviously, the big touchdown run right there. But Creekside had, I guess, enough time with their explosive ability with Vickerson to try to get into field goal range or potentially get, well, actually wouldn't have mattered field goal range. Never mind. It was 27-21, but try to get a touchdown to win it. So Creekside takes over. They eventually get to their own 40-yard line with 1:32 left. But Max Mraz, he made a great tackle on first down. Alejandro Espalosin had a big sack on second down. Creekside gained a little bit on third down with a short completion. And then on fourth down, they did a double pass to Vickerson. He heaved it downfield. But that was, looks like James Lasco, the Marist safety, was able to get the pass break up, and they clinched the victory. So Creekside, I mean, they had a lead, but it was just the execution for Marist, those long drives, they're able to come out on top. On the other side of the bracket, North Oconee and Blessed Trinity. Blessed Trinity actually took a 7-0 lead. Marcellus Townsend, who set the BT record this year for most interceptions, he intercepted Harrison Faulkner on their first play from scrimmage. And then Brooks Goodman, quarterback for BT, took it in on the QB keeper to go up 7-0 just 40 seconds into the game. North Oconee responded with 27 unanswered points, punched their first ever ticket to the state championship. If you look at the trajectory of North Oconee, not only have they not lost a region game, I think their streak's almost as long as Milton's. They've steadily just gotten deeper and deeper into the playoffs. They win their first second round game in school history. The next year, they get to the semifinals for the first time. That was, I believe, last year, and then now they've gone one step further. First ever championship appearance. They're going to try to take down Marist to get that historic state title. UGA signee Landon Roldan gave North Dakota its first lead of the game at 14-7. He had a 42-yard touchdown run, just under 2 minutes left in the half. The game really turned, so BT had that lead. They tried to line up for a 50-yard field goal. They have Noah Godhard. He's one of the best kickers in the state. He had 5 field goals against Jonesboro. The snap looked good, but it was fumbled. North Dakota was able to kind of jump on the ball and gain some yards after that led to their first score, and then rolled in on the 42-yard carry that put them up 14-7 at the half. So it's still a close game. In the second half, though, Luke Burnett intercepted Goodman on BT's opening drive. Braxton Goolsby hauled in a 29-yard reception. It was a heck of a catch. Faulkner actually retreated probably like 20 yards to avoid the BT pass rush, threw up just a really moonshot deep ball, and then he went up and got it, took it down to the one. JT Doster, he finished the drive with a 1-yard touchdown that put North Dakota up 20-7. 7:19 left in the third. Late in the third quarter, North Dakota fumbled in its own territory. BT looked to shrink the deficit with another field goal attempt, but it was blocked by Patrick Elliott and returned 70 yards for the touchdown to give North Dakota a 27-7 lead in the fourth. BT was trying to cut into that deficit, still about half a quarter to play, but then they looked to have a stop on third down. The pass to Landon Roldan went a little high, so he never had possession of it. It's kind of a situation where you can tell he went up for it, was like, oh, I can't catch that. And as soon as he landed, BT's safety really nailed him. And so then they called a flag for targeting a defenseless receiver. That gave them the fresh set of downs. They pretty much ran it out. After that, BT got the ball back. Brooks took a sack, and then they punted away. So anyone who would suggest that was maybe a dirty hit, just look at the way BT finished the game. They were in a 4th and long situation. They knew the score was too wide of a margin to come back, so they punted away, finished the game with class, and North Dakota went on to the finals. So that was a big result. Let's go to Class 3A real quick. In Class 3A, let me pull this up. All right, so you had the Jefferson and LaGrange game. Jefferson ended up winning 21-13. It was a great win for Jefferson and pretty much a heartbreaker for LaGrange. They've had some really close playoff losses the last few years. This one, it was really just tough to see because you can see how they just put it all on the line this year. They had a chance on the last play. The pass went into the end zone. I think went through Malachi's hands. Would have been a really difficult catch that would have put them, I guess, down by 2 points. They would have needed a 2-point conversion, but the ball was incomplete. Jefferson won 21-13. The Dragons will be trying for the program's second state title and first since 2012 in T. McFerrin's last season coaching Jefferson. All right, Calhoun is the team that missed the playoffs last year and has really, it's hard to put into perspective just how big of a sigh of relief this probably is for Coach Stevenson at Calhoun, just to have the run back to the finals. They really needed this because they've had some disappointing finishes, obviously. Not making the playoffs, that's something Calhoun rarely doesn't do. But this year, to be back in the finals, it's huge. I think Calhoun's also benefiting, like Jefferson, from going from Class 5A down to Class 3A. And in this one, Amari Winston, the big tight end, he had a 21-yard touchdown with 4 minutes left before the half. This put up the Yellow Jackets 14-7. Hudson Chadwick scored on a 30-yard run to then put Calhoun up 21-7. The lead went to as much as 28-7, and then they ended up winning 35-24. to 13. Great season for Stevenson. Also, you got to give them a lot of credit making it to the semifinals. We'll see what the Jaguars return next year, but you have a pretty even matchup between Jefferson and Calhoun. I think this one is going to be the most split in terms of the overall picks, just seeing who is going to take the Dragons, who's going to take the Yellow Jackets. I think it'll be pretty close to 50-50. Should be a very good matchup. All right, in Class 2A, Burke County 35, Rockmart 22. Burke County advances to its first state championship appearance since winning it all in 2011 by defeating the Yellow Jackets 35-22. Rockmart got the scoring going with a field goal, took a 3-0 lead. The Yellow Jackets didn't hold the lead for long. Kelvin Scott ran the ensuing kickoff back for a touchdown, giving Burke County a 7-3 lead. Amari Williams, he has been phenomenal for Burke County. Probably one of the all-time career leaders in terms of rushing. He had a huge performance against Thompson in the last round to lead them. He gave the Bears a 14-3 lead with a little over 3 minutes left in the first quarter. On the following Rockmart possession, the Yellow Jackets field goal was blocked by the Bears as Caden Bracey ran it back for a Burke County touchdown to take a 21-3 lead with 30 seconds left in the first quarter. Rockmart was able to get on the board with a little over 6 left in the first half as Max Ware rushed in a touchdown to cut the Bears' lead to 21-9. With under 5 minutes left in the first half, Burke County's Scott found the end zone once again, this time from 12 yards out to take a 28-9 lead. Following another long play from Scott, Burke County's Sean Van Diver, it's the name I've seen in a lot of these recaps making big plays. He scored once again for the Bears with 45 seconds left in the half to give them a 35-9 lead, and they won that one 35-22. Obviously played keep away in that second half to run out the victory. Burke County will play Carver Columbus, who's been totally dominant this season. They knocked off Pierce County in the last round by a huge margin and then beat Appin County 49-9. So that was very impressive. The Tigers took a 19-6 lead with under 7 minutes left in the second quarter. They followed up the safety they got with a touchdown on a 1-yard rush by Kelston Tarver to take a 25-6 lead. They closed out the first half with a 22-yard field goal to push it to 28-6. A third quarter touchdown from Carver Columbus gave them a 35-6 lead. After an Appin County fumble, Kobe Castellan scored to increase the lead to 42-6. The Tigers added another touchdown to their total. So it was 42-6. They won 49-6. The Tigers were able to redeem last season's semifinal defeat against Savannah Christian with a victory this season for a shot to win their second state title and first since 2007. All right, so Class A Division I. I think with this one, man, Toombs County is very dangerous. So I watched a lot of that game. Let me find that real quick. Here we go. So Toombs County beat Dublin, who is also undefeated. They were 13-0. Toombs County was 11-1 going into that. They had one game canceled, I think, during the hurricane or whatever. But they won 42-7. Quarterback TJ Stanley for Toombs County was unbelievable. I think he ended up accounting for 4 or 5 touchdowns. He also had a big 60-yard run that was capped off with a 39-yard touchdown pass to Mike Polk. And obviously Laganza Hayward also had a huge impact, multiple touchdowns in that one. Dublin's Micah O'Neill scored an 8-yard run to cut the deficit to 35-15. But Toombs County returned to the end zone on a 26-yard Justin Powell touchdown to go up 42-15. Toombs County's offense is so good at driving the ball down the field. TJ Stanley was able to use his legs very well. And then when they're hitting all these receivers, it's opening up things in the flats. They got running backs coming out of the backfield. They got Stanley using his legs. Just a very impressive offense. And their only loss was to Savannah Christian, kind of in the heart of their season after the schedule kind of got pushed around with the rescheduling after the hurricane. So I think they're playing their best ball. Laganza Hayward's been pretty much unguardable, and I really like TJ Stanley. They're going to play Northeast Macon. They were making their first ever semifinal appearance. Now they're going to the state championship for the first time. I said probably about 7-8 weeks ago that they remind me of Perry last year, a Middle Georgia team that's never really been. They've had great seasons. They've never been considered a potential state championship team, but this obviously is the year for them. Their only loss was, I think, to Dublin. They played in a very tough region, played a lot of games, and they have Nick Woodford, who is a true workhorse back for them. He was unstoppable. I think had 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then a play that really stood out to me, Fitzgerald had scored 2 straight touchdowns. They cut the deficit to 25-14. And then DeCorian Brundage wrestled the ball out of the receiver's hand in the second half to then immediately set up a touchdown run by Woodford. It was a great defensive play, and that's what it's going to take against Toombs County, is not just intercepting the ball if it comes your way, but forcing the ball out and making that big play to stop the momentum. They won 46-14, and they will take on Toombs County. I really like that matchup. I think Northeast, it will be a tough game plan. Obviously, the defense is really going to have to step up, but offensively, I definitely have been impressed. All right, Class A Division II. Let me pull this up. Let's see. All right, you had Bowden, and this was the Class A Division II semifinals had the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 team. I think that was the only classification that had all the top 4 ranked teams in it. So that was a little predictable, but to see Bowden beat Irwin County 42-28, it's a big result for them. They're the 2-time defending champs. They'll be back in the state championships. And then Manchester, who they've beaten each of the last 2 seasons, they ended up losing to Berks County 17-14 in overtime, the only semi-final game that went into overtime. Then in Class 3A to A private, North Cobb Christian obviously had the big win over Savannah Christian in the last round. And then this time, Prince Avenue Christian 43-0 win. That's a huge statement. North Cobb Christian has a great passing attack. For them to game plan and shut it down is very impressive. Mac Bradley did his thing. He had a rushing touchdown. Jake Bobo, he scored the first touchdown of the game on a 16-yard run, and it was a very dominant performance, 43-0. They're going to face Hebron Christian in a rematch of their 34-31 win earlier this season. Hebron Christian beat Fellowship Christian 24-17. That was a tight game throughout. The Palatins narrowed the gap in the third quarter with a 21-yard field goal, making it 17-9. Al Thompson later tied the game at 17-17 with a touchdown run and then a 2-point conversion. Hebron's running back delivered the game-winning score on a spectacular 77-yard touchdown run with 8:51 remaining. The defense clamped down in the fourth quarter, holding the Paladins scoreless to secure the victory. So that, I think, will be the only rematch in the finals. But for me, Prince Avenue Christian winning 43-0, that's very impressive. And when you see how Prince has performed once they get to the state championship, they definitely look very confident right now. It's a young team. They lost back-to-back games early in the season, I think an out-of-state one and then to BT. But since then, this is a team that's so well-conditioned. They're very versatile, and they have that championship pedigree. So that would be very interesting. All right, let's move on real quick to talk about tomorrow. Starting at 3 o'clock to 5, we're going to have the Mr. and Mrs. Georgia Football Awards. It's going to be on the Peachtree Sports Network. We'll obviously have coverage of it on social media. If you follow Score Atlanta, you can see who wins the Mr. Georgia Football and Mrs. Georgia Football for flag. There are 5 finalists right now for each of them. And then we also have our coaches of the year and top performers. Real quick, for our rushing leader, that was Zayden Cook of Chattooga. He was also the offensive player of the year. You also have a breakout player of the year offensively. That was Prince Avenue Christian's Andrew Beard, the sophomore. He'll be there. We're obviously going to get to see him in the championships as well. For breakout performer or player of the year for defense, that was Pebblebrook's KJ Green. And then Jonesboro's Cortez Redding was the defensive player of the year, and they will both be in attendance. The receiving leader, Jalen Elder from Morgan County, he is going to be there. The passing leader, Rashawn Terrell from New Hampstead. And then our coach of the year was Drew Swick of Collins Hill. And I think just when you look what they did this year, some big wins over Grayson, Mill Creek, I thought he's definitely done a phenomenal job. You also have Brett Vavra from Sprayberry, coach of the year in class 5A. Chad Cheatham from Fannin County, coach of the year in class A Division 1. So be sure to watch that. It's going to be a fun 2-hour ceremony. You're going to get to see all the big-time playmakers this year up close and personal to talk about this year's season, the success, and should be a lot of fun. This is year 1 for this event. I think it's only going to grow. I'm excited about the facility and to see all these guys just come in and celebrate Georgia high school football. But go to scoreatl.com. We've got the full recaps of the semifinals, every single game. You can look up the championship matchups, and then we also have a story breaking down the all classification teams for offense, defense, the assistant coaches of the year, the coaches of the year, and then obviously the same for flag football. That'll be tomorrow at 3 o'clock. All right, we'll see you guys then.